Hello, welcome back to my studio where I always am in all these videos. Today I'm going to be drawing my pets as Pokemon because I've been playing Pokemon a lot lately with the weather cooling down and just hanging out inside a little bit more, and also I thought I would try and do a Nuzlocke to make the Shining Diamond game not so boring. So yeah, today I'm going to be drawing them as Pokemon. I think it's a really good practice as an artist to try and emulate things in another style or try and think creatively how to make them into characters. So even though I don't claim to be a very good Pokemon artist, and I'm also not closely following the style, I'm taking some kind of key elements from there and taking aspects of my pets and mashing them together to make some fake made-up Pokemon. So yeah, I'm going to begin doing that. So I'm starting with Tugboat, and I'm going to start with his little baby evolution. As a puppy, he was very bitey and had very sharp razor teeth like a lot of puppies do, so I wanted to do some biting aspects, and he'd also carry around his bowl a lot whenever it was empty, so he was very gluttonous. I mean, he still is, but it was very cute, so I think I'm going to incorporate a bowl on his head that maybe he can take off and use to eat food with. Also on his body, I'm going to put like a little shelf kind of design that might look kind of like a t-shirt or armor, because when he was a puppy, he had something called a flanged rib, which is common in basset hounds and dachshunds and things like that, but basically just means the bones of the ribs are flared out. And they usually grow out of it, and he grew out of it when he was older, but it was pretty disgusting to look at when he was a puppy. So I'm adding those elements and kind of keeping his coloring the same as he was when he was a puppy. And I wanted to make him a dark type because he was a tad naughty and evil, as he still is, so puppy to adulthood typing. So this is my completed Pokemon for his pre-evolution. I'm gonna call it a Wuglet because his nickname is Wug, because his name's Tugboat, so then we call him Tug, and then he goes by Wug, so he's a Wuglet. And that is Wuglet. So for his evolution, it'll be more based on his adult form. So I kind of had an idea for a kind of like Trapinch style Pokemon where he kind of waits to bite things because he can be fairly reactive around food or anything, and he still enjoys to chomp. Not nearly as much as a puppy, but he still be biting inappropriately. So I thought maybe a trap idea. Hunter mentioned briefly maybe he'd be a fighting type, so I kind of explored that for a second, but I wasn't really vibing with it. I think I was stuck on this trap idea. So I gave him big trap-like teeth, gave him some saggy skin over his eyes, but I liked the idea that maybe if you pulled up the skin, there were still eyes underneath there, kind of like Appleton's ears. And I gave him a horn on his head because he has like, hounds kind of have this bone structure where they have like a horn on their skull. It's not really a horn, but it's like a sharp point to the back of their skull, and we just call it his horn. So gave him a horn and made his toes really big, like turtle-like, because that's how they are in real life. And I wanted to give him like a flat, tiny body and like a big mouth with ears that come out. So the idea is like he would stabilize in sand, because I imagine if he's a Pokemon, he'd live in the desert because he loves to be hot. So maybe in battle, he would like get a defense boost from fire type moves, which I think is heat body or something, or flame, I don't know. But I ended up going with the ability Defiant for both of them just because that's what he is and still will always be as defiant towards me. So anyway, here's the complete design for Tug. I like how it turned out. I think he'd be a cool Pokemon to get. He also kind of looks like a regional variant for Greavard, which I love Greavard, so I'm sure subconsciously I was taking a lot from that. I think if I did another pass at this, I could like adjust it slightly and it would definitely be a regional form for Greavard. It'd be kind of fun if for a regional form, it's like a different dog breed per region. So since he's a basset hound, maybe it'd be the regional form for Kalos, since it's based, I think that's the right one. It's based in France, and since, you know, French breed France, so. Oh, a small detail too that I thought was fun is he'd like bury himself in the sand and just the horn and tail stick out, which is very much like Greavard with just the candle sticking out. So I was definitely having Grievard on the mind. Anyway, moving on. I did Moonshine, my cat, because I feel like I haven't really mentioned her, and she's very beautiful and a princess. So I gave her 2 forms because I also had her as a kitten, so I know her from her baby form. And I thought she'd be a fairy type because she's very wispy and dainty and cute and very much a girl. So I just made her like a little puffball because when she was a kitten, she was definitely just a puffball, and gave her little tufts ears because she is part Maine Coon. Her dad was a Maine Coon and her mom was a street rat. And that's okay. We can't all be beautiful all the way through. So yeah, I just gave her little spots to kind of give her an homage to her spottage and gave her big creepy eyes. And instead of putting like whites in it, like a shine, I thought it'd be fun to do like a mock shine. Like maybe she's a fairy type, but she doesn't have like real eyes or something. So light doesn't reflect off them. So then it adapted to have these bat-shaped pupils to mimic cute eyes. So like kind of a creepy thing. The idea for her is that she like levitates around and coughs up hairballs all the time because that's all she does. She's a very big puker if you don't give her the right food. And she loves to cuddle, and maybe she would spray off little dandruff things. But this is little Mooney. And then she evolves into her adult form, which is the Pachoon, which is her nickname. It's like Moonshine, Mooney, and then I don't know why Pachoon. I feel like everyone has dumb nicknames for their pets. So I figured she'd be a fairy ghost type because she scares the shit out of me sometimes because I live in an older house and it'll be dark and she's very quiet and she'll just like be up high and she'll just like poke her head out and scare the shit out of me. So she is a ghost type, so I kind of like the idea that she has no back legs because she's very fluffy and has like a fur skirt. So I did her big, tall, half Maine Coon ears. And I kind of liked the idea that the ears kind of go out, but then the fur points in. I think it added a nice, interesting shape. And I wanted to capture how she's kind of long and elegant, but then she retains those cutie eyes that are kind of like false cute eyes. Especially now that she's ghost, it's even extra creepy. And I made it so that her bottom half is kind of like a mop and is blue and goes up to the white to add some like ghostly intrigue. And I like the idea that her spots are kind of like inky and kind of floating up and like kind of doing like a Miyazaki thing where it's like goo kind of going and then it just vanishes into nothing. So her tail is like that, and I like the idea that if she was to float around, her like little chunky arms that aren't attached to the paws just kind of suck up into the fluff, and her little hand feet just kind of do a Rayman where they just kind of float around and she just kind of floats around like a ferret and doesn't actually walk anywhere. And she's a big talker, and if she doesn't get attention, she does scream a lot. So I thought she would have like a tiny mouth when you look at her, but then like how cats open their mouth really wide. So when she meows, she has like this big creepy mouth and she just has like a supersonic screech. So I thought their ability from kitten to now would just be cute charm because, I don't know, she's cute. So that is Mooney and Pachoon, Moonshine's Pokemon version. So then next I thought I'd do something different than a cat and a dog, and I went with Lemon, Hunter's favorite duck. She's one of our oldest ducks, and she is just a classic good gal. So I kind of struggle with this design because, I mean, she's just a duck. There's not too much to ducks. If you don't like have a house duck, it's not like you're gonna have a ton of personality or differentiating traits, and even then it's like they don't, you just don't know them as well as you would a house pet. So I wanted to go based off of her name and maybe the few traits I do know about her. So I just started with a duck form and kind of built off of that since I wasn't quite sure I was going with it. And also there's a lot of duck Pokemon already, so it's really hard not to want to just copy certain elements of those designs. So I was trying really hard to maybe avoid just making it look like Quaxley or Psyduck or something. But also I didn't want it to just be a plain duck because people be riding in the streets when it's just a flamingo or something. So I thought I would do some lemon elements, and I kind of liked how in the sketch I separated the wing and the tail, and then I thought, what if she was like a lemon underneath some kind of white cloaking? Maybe like a white raincoat or something. So I kind of drew a little lemon shape underneath, and it's not a perfect lemon because her tail is one end of a lemon and it's round underneath, and it's like, where's the other end? But that's none of my business. So she's a little lemon underneath, and then adding some like citrus leaves as like an accoutrement. I thought maybe on the head at first, but I moved it to the chest because it just didn't feel right on the head. And then I thought maybe adding like a lemon flower on her forehead could be interesting because I wanted her to be kind of a grass water type. So I thought that was really cute, and I liked the idea that maybe humans poach them for citrus dishes or whatever. You know how people in the Pokemon universe be over poaching birds. So just the tail falling off and then just some goofy doodles. There isn't too much to her design other than like her weird little cloak body. And as I was doing the outline here, I thought about what if her feet were like the scoops from like the Italian ices, you know? Because when I eat Italian ices, I always get like the lemon flavor, and I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. She had like scoops for feet instead of just the typical duck foot, so that adds like an extra fun element. And that was like a nice last second kind of like, what if I just did that instead? And I really like it, actually. So color-wise, it's simple, but I think very effective. And this is one of my favorite designs because it feels like this, of all these, could be a pretty real Pokemon. I'm not the best at like following Pokemon design guidelines. I had a friend who looked at these and said these could pass as Tamagotchis, and I actually think these would actually be more Tamagotchi than they would be Pokemon, but that's okay. This is about practicing ideation and design rather than being exact to Pokemon. So just a way to flex that strength. So anyway, last but not least, I thought I'd choose Jelly. Jelly is another difficult one because she is kind of basic. Even for a donkey, she's just like the typical gray donkey, nothing going on. Her personality's great. She's extremely sweet. The thing that like stands out about her, which is not a unique trait, but it's something like from my animals that's her trait. In her backstory is she came to us, she didn't come to us, but she started out in life as extremely morbidly obese, and then now her body's permanently kind of stuck with these fat deposits. She's not morbidly obese anymore, but she's always going to look fat. Donkeys are fucked up. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of incorporate that somehow. So I started with this big blocky design at first, just again starting with like a basic kind of generalized shape and kind of building from there. I wasn't super happy with it because it wasn't really anything other than a caricature of a donkey, and it wasn't really feeling very Pokemon-esque. So then I was thinking of the donkeys that already exist in Pokemon, which is Mudbray, and it's such a good design, and it's really hard for me not to want to just copy that. So I did kind of go a little bit in the Mudbray direction with like more of a skinny body and a round head. And I think that was the right move because it felt more like it was living in a cartoon world. And honestly, this design could also just be a variant of Mudbray, but I digress. So I wanted to capture her cuteness as well. I didn't want her to be too creepy. She got a little creepy occasionally with this design, but I think I fixed it with like redesigning the face fluff and stuff like that. The idea for the Jelly concept is that she's like a regular sized donkey, but she has like this coat almost of like fat pads that are over her but aren't really attached. So I didn't draw it, but it would be fun to draw where it's like if she was falling or like an extremely big gust of wind, like the flaps actually come up and reveal the side of her body, which is a regular donkey. And she could maybe have control over the size of her fat and make herself bigger to deflect objects. So maybe she's like a really big defense Pokemon. But I just made her a normal type because there's nothing wrong with that. And she really feels like a normal type. And I find like I was Googling around, and a lot of gluttonous Pokemon tend to be normal types. I don't know why, like Snorlax and Slacking and stuff. So I'm pretty happy with the final design. I like the fat aspect of like having it as an ability, and maybe in like cold weather she grows like big fur because in the winter she does puff up. In the summer I call it her skinny outfit because her fur gets really tight. Fun fact about desert animals though is they don't store fat the same way winter animals do. They store them in specific areas to not overheat themselves. So like that's why you see fat-tailed animals a lot in the desert, and that's why donkeys grow fat on like their neck and their butt and back first because they don't want fat all over their body because they want to heat regulate. So that's why they look so fucked up. And that's also why they get fat so easily because they're in the desert and they need to travel long distances and eat nothing. And that's how they get energy. So another aspect of this Pokemon design, which is true in real life, is they can easily become overweight. So that is Jelly, possibly a variant for a Mudbray for like, I imagine if you like reverse engineer, it could be like a variant for Kanto, because I feel like Kanto's like the basic bitch generation. You can come at me with that or whatever. I grew up with it. I can admit that the designs are just as boring as some of the newer ones, and I don't know, you can scream about it all you want. So anyway, that was my pets as Pokemon. If you would like to try it, I would implore you to do so because it's really good for stretching your brain and figuring out how to problem solve, like how would I take this animal, incorporate aspects of it, and mix it with like a typing and maybe abilities and like what environment would it live in and, you know, stuff like that. It kind of like helps you not only world build, it gets your character have its own life to where it's not, you know, just your pet, but it's this whole other thing. Like, does Tugboat live in the desert? No, but it's like fun to think there. It's like, oh, since he loves heat, he'd probably be like a desert Pokemon, and how do I do like ground and dark and make that like a different thing? Kind of like how Incineroar is like a dark type, but he's not fighting, but he still has like a very fighting design. So anyway, just fun ways to think about stuff and practice, and also do something fun that you like outside of maybe your general style. So that is that. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know down below what typing maybe your pets would be, and I'll see you next time. Bye.